Take a look at the map of Europe. Right between Poland and Lithuania, on the coast of the Baltic Sea, your eyes will be drawn to a tiny piece of land. Its name, Kaliningrad Oblast. Geographically, this place is located in the heart of Europe. Everything around it is European. Yet, the Russian flag flies here, transactions in shops are done in rubles, and people speak Russian. Located about 700 kilometers away from mainland Russia, this place is like a geographical island, an exclave. To get here from Moscow, you have to cross 2 international borders and pass through the strict surveillance of NATO and the European Union. But much more dramatic than this geographical anomaly is its history. Just 80 years ago, the name Kaliningrad did not exist on the world map. Back then, its name was Königsberg, a city that for 700 years was a shining beacon of German civilization, culture, and philosophy, where a philosopher like Immanuel Kant spent his entire life, where the kings of Prussia proudly wore their crowns. Where is that historic Königsberg today? How did that aristocratic German city turn into an impenetrable Russian military fortress overnight? By what magic was 700 years of a city's history erased? And why, in the 21st century, has this isolated territory become the most dangerous flashpoint in the Cold War between Russia and the Western world? We will try to find the answers to all these complex and historical questions in today's episode. This story begins about 800 years ago. The year was 1255. A group of German warriors, the Teutonic Knights, arrived on the banks of the Pregel River by the Baltic Sea. Their objective was to convert the local pagan Prussian tribes to Christianity and establish their own state. In honor of King Ottokar II of Bohemia, they built a fortress here. It was named Königsberg, which in German means King's Mountain. Gradually, a prosperous city grew around this fortress. Königsberg became an important member of the Hanseatic League, a commercial confederation in Northern Europe. The city flourished through the trade of Baltic amber, timber, and grain. Another turning point occurred in the 16th century. Albert, the Grand Master of the Teutonic Order, established the Duchy of Prussia here. And when Prussia was elevated to a full kingdom in 1701, the first Prussian king, Frederick I, was crowned not in Berlin, but right here in the Königsberg Cathedral. Although the capital was later moved to Berlin, Königsberg's importance as the soul of the Prussian monarchy never diminished. The famous Albertina University was established here in 1544. Immanuel Kant, the father of modern philosophy, grew up breathing the air of this city. His famous book, Critique of Pure Reason, was written right here. Kant never left the borders of Königsberg his entire life. With its Gothic cathedrals, Renaissance-era castles, and narrow cobblestone streets, Königsberg was a living museum of German culture. But who knew that, in a devastating storm of the 20th century, every brick, wood, and stone of this city was about to be wiped from the pages of history forever? World War II. Königsberg was a crucial stronghold for Hitler's Nazi forces. But towards the end of the war, the tables turned. August 1944. The British Royal Air Force carried out carpet bombing over Königsberg under the cover of darkness. Their target was to destroy military installations, but the raging flames engulfed the city's 700-year-old historic center. Kant's tomb, the cathedral, the university, everything was reduced to rubble. The city turned into a burning hellscape. Meanwhile, January 1945. The Soviet Red Army was advancing from the east. They were frantic to avenge the devastation they had suffered at the hands of the Nazis. To save lives, the largest maritime rescue operation in human history began, Operation Hannibal. Defying the bitter cold and the fear of torpedoes from Soviet submarines, about 2 million German citizens were evacuated across the turbulent waves of the Baltic Sea. But not everyone could escape. April 1945. The Red Army completely surrounded Königsberg. Hitler ordered that the city must be defended to the last drop of blood, but after just 4 days of fierce fighting, Königsberg fell. On April 9, 1945, German commander Otto Lasch surrendered. When the smoke of war cleared, it was revealed that 80% of the city had been destroyed. And in this once crowded city, Only 25,000 people were left alive. After the war, at the Potsdam Conference, the victorious Allied powers sat down to redraw the map of Europe. Soviet leader Joseph Stalin had a long-standing desire for an ice-free port on the Baltic Sea. On Stalin's demand, Königsberg and its surrounding areas were handed over to the Soviet Union. A new process began, known as Sovietization. That is, completely erasing a region's identity and giving it a new one. Inhumane torture descended upon the remaining German citizens in the city. Between 1947 and 1950, the surviving Germans were forcibly deported to East Germany. The existence of those who had considered this land their home for 700 years was wiped out in an instant. In 1946, in honor of Mikhail Kalinin, the name of Königsberg was changed to Kaliningrad, Tilsit became Sovetsk, Insterburg became Chernyakovsk. Not only the names, but the architecture was also destroyed. In 1968, Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev blew up the ruins of the Königsberg castle with dynamite, labeling it a symbol of Prussian militarism. To fill the void left by the Germans, millions of people were brought in from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine to settle here. This is how Königsberg vanished from the map, and Kaliningrad was born, a new Soviet land loyal to Moscow. During the Soviet era, Kaliningrad became a closed city. It was the Soviets' westernmost stronghold, right under NATO's nose. The headquarters of the Baltic Fleet was established here. It is estimated that during the Cold War, nearly 200,000 troops, hundreds of tanks and nuclear weapons were deployed in this small region. NATO called it the unsinkable aircraft carrier. But in 1991, another turning point in history occurred: the collapse of the Soviet Union. When Lithuania and Belarus became independent, Kaliningrad was cut off from the Russian mainland for the first time. The once mighty stronghold suddenly became a helpless enclave trapped between two independent countries. In the 1990s, extreme economic disaster struck here. Kaliningrad was plagued by smuggling, drug trafficking, and an AIDS epidemic. Many thought that perhaps this region would slip out of Russia's hands, or that it would turn into a Baltic Hong Kong. But Moscow never wanted to let go of this strategic card. After Vladimir Putin came to power in 2000, Kaliningrad's fate changed once again. On Putin's chessboard, this region became the most important piece. Especially when Poland and the Baltic states joined NATO in 2004, Kaliningrad became a sharp Russian knife plunged into NATO's belly. Russia has deployed state-of-the-art anti-aircraft systems like the S-400 and Iskander-M ballistic missiles here. These missiles are capable of carrying nuclear warheads, and from here it is very easy to strike Berlin or Warsaw. In military terminology, this is called an A2/AD bubble, meaning if a conflict breaks out, Russia could use this base to completely block NATO's access to the Baltic Sea. The biggest fear for NATO is the Suwałki Gap. This 65-kilometer narrow corridor on the border of Poland and Lithuania is what connects the Baltic countries to Europe. Analysts fear that if World War III ever begins, Russia will simultaneously attack from Kaliningrad and Belarus to seize this corridor. As a result, 3 NATO countries would be cut off in an instant. Following the Ukraine war in 2022, tensions over Kaliningrad have reached a fever pitch. When the European Union imposed sanctions on the transit of goods, Russia wasted no time in issuing counter-threats. The story of Kaliningrad is actually a strange paradox. It is a city whose body is European, but whose soul is Russian. The 700 years of German history here is today nothing but an underground archaeological memory. In the city where Immanuel Kant once dreamt of perpetual peace by a cruel twist of fate, that very city has today become one of the biggest threats to world peace. Kaliningrad is perhaps the greatest example of how a geographical anomaly and political stubbornness can turn a settlement into a powder keg. A lost heart of Germany, which is now beating as a dangerous Russian nuclear fortress. Look at the map of Europe and think, could this tiny enclave become the fuse for a great war of tomorrow?